Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that feels, well, deceptively simple. Being present. It's a skill I think many of us know we need, especially with everything pulling at our attention.
Absolutely. Constant demands.
So for this exploration, we've gathered a really diverse set of viewpoints. We're looking at practical stuff from Zen habits, workplace ideas from Manage magazine.
And also the well-being focus from places like mindful.org and the Calm blog.
Right. Plus clinical perspectives, Mayo Clinic, Greater Good in Action from Berkeley.
And really interestingly, a VA.gov guide on acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, looking at anxiety and trauma. So quite a range.
Yeah, a real mix.
And what makes this collection, I think, so compelling is how it links that everyday desire for, more calm and focus with these sort of established psychological ways of handling really tough emotional challenges.
Okay.
So our aim here in this deep dive is to get beyond just the what and how. We want to pull out some truly actionable insights.
Things you can actually use.
Exactly, and maybe find some surprising connections between these different sources, basically giving you, the listener, clear ways to cultivate presence without it feeling like, another overwhelming task.
Right, not another chore. Okay, so let's dive in. When we talk about being present, what does that actually mean? And I guess, why should we care?
Well, at its core, presence is really about this deep awareness of this moment right now. What you're sensing, what you're feeling. But crucially, as both Calm blog and Mayo Clinic point out, it's without judgment.
Okay. The non-judgmental part.
That's key. It's being fully engaged with the here and now, like the Calm blog says, not getting sort of swept away by thoughts about the past or worries about the future.
Which is easier said than done, right? Our minds love to wander.
Oh, completely. But the sources are pretty clear on why making the effort is so valuable. We're talking about boosts to your overall well-being, improvements in emotional and physical health, actually, greater clarity, a sense of peace.
Peace sounds good.
And even more joy, according to Calm. And that VA.gov guide gives a really important contrast. When we're lost in thought all the time, we're basically running on autopilot.
Yeah, I feel that.
And that autopilot stops us from really truly engaging with what's happening right now. You miss things.
Running on autopilot, that definitely hits home. So, okay, how do we actually, switch off the autopilot and become more present? Sounds like our sources have some concrete techniques.
They definitely do. Let's start with something really fundamental, but surprisingly powerful: mindful breathing.
Okay.
Breathing. Yeah. Manage magazine points out that even taking just 3 to 5 deep conscious breaths, it can actually reset your nervous system, bring you back.
Just 3 to 5, really?
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And the main idea, which Calm and Greater Good both stress, is just focusing on the sensation of the breath, the feeling of it going in and out.
Like an anchor.
Exactly. An anchor for when your mind inevitably drifts off, which it will. It's just a gentle way to come back.
And Greater Good even breaks it down.
Right.
Get comfy, relax your body, tune into the breath, abdomen, chest, nostrils. And when your mind wanders, which, yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Just gently bring your attention back. They suggest just 5 to 7 minutes. And I like that they mentioned being kind to yourself for even trying. That feels less intimidating.
It does, doesn't it? Much less pressure. Another really interesting idea, this one's from Zen Habits, is using mindfulness bells.
Mindfulness bells?
Yeah.
Like actual bells?
Well, it could be. You could set a chime on your phone or something, but it could also be everyday things.
Oh.
Yeah, like seeing your kid's face or traffic light changing, or even just the ping of a notification. Using those as little reminders.
Prompts.
Prompts to just pause for a second and notice what's actually happening right then. Training yourself to use these moments.
I like that. Little anchors scattered through the day. Manage magazine also talks about starting the day with intention.
Yes. Taking just maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, sitting quietly, breathing deeply.
And asking yourself questions.
Yeah, like, what do we want to focus on today? How do I want to show up? Sort of setting the tone.
Setting a direction instead of just reacting.
Exactly. And Manage magazine also brings up mindful silence, intentionally scheduling short bursts of quiet.
Why silence?
To kind of reset the brain, apparently.
Yeah.
Regain clarity, mental energy. They even suggest maybe a minute of silence at the start of a meeting.
A minute of silence in a meeting. Wow, that's bold.
It is a bit unconventional maybe, but the idea is it could help everyone actually arrive, be present, and focus better together.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
What about moving? Mayo Clinic mentions walking meditation.
Right. Just paying attention to the physical sensations, standing, the little movements as you walk slowly. Very embodied.
And engaging the senses, too, like really noticing touch, sound, sight.
Exactly. All of them. Taste, smell,
Right.
really immersing yourself, like truly savoring food instead of just eating it on the go.
Okay. And Calm Blog adds more tools to the kit, right?
Yeah, they talk about grounding techniques, like the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise.
Oh, I've heard that. 5 things you see.
4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, 1 you taste. It's a really direct way to pull yourself back into your senses right now.
Very concrete.
Very. They also mention, the benefits of nature, just being outside, taking in the sights, sounds, smells.
Yeah, that always helps me feel grounded.
And also scheduling creative time, things like painting or music, activities that naturally pull you into the present moment.
Right, because you get absorbed.
Exactly. And then there's mindful eating, which one source detailed quite a bit. Really paying attention to the food, using all your senses, noticing hunger and fullness.
Without judgment again.
Without judgment, yeah.
Yeah.
And trying to minimize distractions while you eat, basically turning routine stuff into chances to practice presence.
It really feels like there's this whole toolbox, doesn't it? Lots of accessible ways to just gently nudge ourselves back to the present. Now, that VA.gov guide on ACT, it introduces some really interesting concepts. Acceptance and diffusion. How do they fit in?
Right, so ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. From that perspective, acceptance isn't about, liking or wanting difficult things to happen.
Right.
It's more about consciously choosing to adopt this stance that's open, receptive, flexible, and non-judgmental again towards whatever is happening in the moment. And that includes the uncomfortable stuff, thoughts, memories, physical sensations.
So you don't fight it.
You don't automatically fight it? No. The guide emphasizes that by practicing this acceptance, we can stay present even when things feel hard.
Okay.
And that creates the space, you see, to respond in new ways that support actions aligned with what we really care about, our values. It's about being willing to just be with what is.
So instead of instantly trying to push away, say, an anxious feeling, you deliberately make room for it.
Precisely that. And the guide actually offers exercises for this. Things like just noticing physical sensations without trying to fix them. Or recognizing thoughts, not as undeniable facts. Labeling emotions gently like, there's anxiety, with curiosity. Observing urges without immediately acting. There's also a really lovely self-compassion practice described. You think of someone you care about who's struggling, feel that warmth for them, and then you turn that same compassion toward yourself when you're the one struggling.
That's powerful.
It really is. And ultimately, in ACT, acceptance means recognizing that even with difficult feelings present, you can still choose actions that matter to you.
That connection to values seems really central. Okay, what about diffusion? That sounds a bit technical.
Yeah, it does sound a bit jargony. But in ACT, diffusion basically means creating some mental distance from your thoughts.
Distance.
Yeah, learning to see them as just words or pictures in your head, mental events, rather than literal truths that have to control your behavior.
So they have less power.
Exactly. Less impact.
Yeah.
It's about becoming aware of the process of thinking, without getting totally snagged by the content.
How do you do that?
Well, techniques include things like labeling your thoughts. That's a judgment. Or, okay, that's a prediction. Noticing their qualities, or the words, pictures, where do they seem to be? How old does this thought feel?
Interesting.
There's even a technique where you gently thank your mind for the thought.
Thank your mind for telling you something negative.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive. But it's a way to acknowledge the mind's activity without buying into the thought or letting it hook you.
Wow. Okay.
The guide also uses metaphors, like thinking of past failures as maybe dirty laundry hanging out to dry. It's there, but it doesn't have to define you or weigh you down right now.
Okay, I can picture that.
Another one compares struggles to food on a plate. You choose how to engage. Even if there's something unpleasant, you can add the jam of valued actions.
Adding the gem. Okay.
And a really practical technique is just adding the phrase, I'm having the thought that, before the thought.
So instead of, I'm not good enough,
you'd say, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. That little shift creates just enough space, weakens the immediate punch of the thought.
Okay, I see. So acceptance is being present with what's here. Diffusion is getting unhooked from our thoughts about it. How does this then lead to taking action? Especially with things like anxiety or trauma.
Right. This is where values-based action really comes in. In ACT, values are your core guiding principles.
What's truly important to you.
Exactly, how you want to be in the world. And the VA guide stresses that acting on your values often means encountering difficult thoughts and feelings.
So you need the acceptance part.
You need the acceptance and diffusion skills, yes. The key is connecting that present moment awareness to what matters most. Asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What do I want my life to be about?
Bigger questions.
Yeah. And from there, you can set SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound goals that directly link to those values. And then you take committed action towards them, even if it feels uncomfortable. The guide even has worksheets for tracking this, noting what difficult stuff you had to make room for, and also noticing the feeling of, doing what matters. There are also exercises to help you connect with values, like remembering a time you felt really alive and engaged, a sweet spot moment.
So it's about living meaningfully, even when it's hard. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Some sources mention the neuroscience. What's actually going on in our brains when we practice this stuff?
Yeah, it's fascinating. The Frontiers article we looked at talks about mindfulness meditation involving this flexible, intentional direction of attention to the present.
Okay.
And research highlighted there and elsewhere really indicates these practices can lead to measurable changes in brain activity.
Actual change.
Actual changes. Like a 2007 study showed distinct brain patterns related to self-awareness changing with meditation. And therapies like MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which are used for anxiety, seem to work partly because of these neurological effects. There was even research showing brief training reducing smoking.
Wow.
And another study found meditation lowered cortisol, the stress hormone.
So real biological impacts.
It seems so. And other research points to improvements in attention and self-regulation. The exact mechanisms are still being figured out, of course.
Yeah.
But it's becoming clearer that practicing presence isn't just, a nice feeling. It seems to be fostering real positive changes in our nervous system. For you, the listener, I think that reinforces that this isn't just fluff. It's potentially rewiring things in a good way.
That's incredibly validating, actually. Good to know there's some biology behind it. Now, for a lot of us, the idea of adding another thing to a busy workday feels, overwhelming.
Yeah, totally understandable.
How can we realistically weave this into work without it just becoming more stress?
Manage Magazine specifically addresses this. They really push back on the idea that mindfulness needs, long meditation sessions.
Okay, good.
They stress that small, intentional shifts throughout the day can make a real difference. We've touched on some already, those few mindful breaths when stressed,
Right.
using short moments of silence as a reset. They also suggest practical things like trying to create a quieter workspace if possible, maybe noise-canceling headphones, or even setting up designated quiet work periods if your job allows. And that idea of starting meetings with a minute of silence, maybe it boosts focus in the long run.
Yeah.
And calm reminds us too, even in chaos, just coming back to your breath for a few moments when you feel swamped, that can be powerful. It's about finding those little pockets.
Weaving it in.
Weaving these tiny intentional awareness moments into the day you already have.
So it's not about huge time commitments, but more about scattering these little moments of awareness. Okay, let's try and pull this all together.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways for you, the listener, from this deep dive into being present?
I think the main thing is that being present is genuinely a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed. We've seen that there's a whole range of techniques.
Yeah, lots of options.
To really simple things like focusing on your breath or using everyday cues as little reminders.
Those mindfulness bells.
Right, all the way to more structured practices like meditation or the acceptance and diffusion stuff from ACT. Ultimately, it's about building that capacity to notice and engage with right now without the harsh judgment. Accepting your experiences, even the tough ones. Getting a bit of space from thoughts so they don't run the show. And trying to align your actions with what truly matters to you, your values.
And it's a process.
Absolutely. It's a process, not some perfect state you arrive at. Every little step towards more presence can make a real difference to your well-being, your resilience.
Okay, so here's something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. A final thought. Consider this. What if you pick just one small, naturally occurring mindfulness bell in your day-to-day? Maybe it's the sound your computer makes when it starts up, or the feeling of water on your hands when you wash them, or even that tiny pause before you answer the phone. Just pick one thing. And each time that bell happens today, just take 3 slow, mindful breaths. Really notice the feeling of the air coming in and going out. That's it, just 3 breaths. What subtle shifts might you notice in your awareness? Maybe your tension level, how you approach the very next moment. Yeah. This tiny, almost effortless action. Maybe that's the doorway. A way into a deeper connection with right now and perhaps a more resilient you. We really hope you'll explore some of the resources we talked about and experiment to find what clicks for you on your own path to presence.
Definitely. Find what works.
Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us.